Coming to paperback and e-readers everywhere, E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewoman in this action-packed, all-new E-Steam series adventure. Pre-order your copy of E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman on Amazon.com today. I have been watching some extremely disturbing behavior from black males as related to the passing of Kevin Samuels. Now, many of these black males have been acting in some very disturbing ways as they are trying to deal with the passing of Kevin Samuels. Now, what I find to be interesting is a couple of months ago when YouTuber David Carroll passed away, I did not see many black males and black men behaving in the dysfunctional way I have been seeing black males behave as related to the passing of Kevin Samuels. Yes, many black men, including myself, made tributes to the late Mr. Carroll and thanked him for his contributions to social media, but most of those men kept it civil. Most of those men showed great respect for Mr. Carroll, and most of those men made efforts to try to show respect for everything that he did and looked to try to make declarations to preserve his legacy as related to his contributions to social media, because what Mr. Carroll did was he made it where this YouTube platform was made more civil, because he called out much of the dysfunctional behavior that was being presented online. However, in the case of the passing of Kevin Samuels, I'm starting to see a return to many of the dysfunctional behaviors that took place before David Carroll came to this platform, and I'm seeing a lot of those dysfunctional behaviors on display as related to the passing of Kevin Samuels. And what's really sad is that as many of these black males and black men who have college educations are out here acting in these dysfunctional ways, they are not understanding that they are making the entire race look bad with their extremely dysfunctional behavior. Now, many of these black males and black men out here who are followers of Kevin Samuels, they will sit there and talk about the out-of-control behavior of black women who went out here and wished your Kevin Samuels dead and celebrated his death. And I really look at that behavior as quite sick and disturbing, because I saw the same kind of behavior displayed with the passing of Kobe Bryant from both black women and white feminists, and that behavior was extremely sick and depraved. But many of these black males don't see how their behavior is just as depraved and disturbing, because the behavior you're participating in as related to reacting to Kevin Samuels' death does not honor this man, and all it does is it presents the dysfunction of black America on display. Now, as many of these men, like Kid Organic has said, has been snotting and boo-hoo crying, they've also been going out here and deifying and worshiping Kevin Samuels. And I find that truly to be disturbing, because that shows me that the so-called high-value man ideology that Kevin Samuels has preached has turned into a cult. And as this cult has formed around your Kevin Samuels, many of these men are not thinking critically on their own. No, they have become acolytes and followers to an ideology. And as these acolytes and followers are in this ideology, they are caught up in their feelings about the idea they have created, that they've imagined about this man, and that ideology has basically turned into a religion around this man. So when I look at many of these guys who buy into the narrative of the high-value man, it's turning into a high-value cult. And with the passing of Kevin Samuels, the high value cult has turned into a group of black men, and this group of black men no longer have a leader, and now there's a vacuum as related to power. And that's where the dysfunction really starts to develop among those elites who are out here bootlicking your Kevin Samuels. Many of these so-called elites who were out here bootlicking your Kevin Samuels and looking to gain favor with your Kevin Samuels, they are looking to try to grab power to become the new leaders of the high value cult. And this high value, getting this power for the high value cult, has made many of these males power mad. Now, there is one guy who's out here filing lawsuits against anyone who disagrees with Kevin Samuels. And again, this is quite troubling because suing people because they have a difference of opinion, that goes against our U.S. Constitution. And going out here and saying people are slandering and libeling Kevin Samuels for having a difference of opinion and putting difference of opinion on platforms, that's going to be a very costly thing to do, because you can't sue everybody into agreeing with you. Like the late David Carroll said, what they want is monolithic thought, and what they want everybody to do is think the same way and have the same thoughts regarding everything. And what the high value cult really wants to do, the elites at the top, is they want to get control over Kevin Samuels' narrative, and they want to get control over Kevin Samuels' narrative because they all want to gain access to Kevin Samuels' followers, and they want to gain access to all of his subscribers, because Kevin Samuels' platform was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and every month, and he made lots of money on AdSense dollars because he was monetized probably by YouTube, and he also made thousands as related to super chats and more money with Cash Apps and Venmo donations. So they want to keep the high value narrative going because the high value narrative is a very lucrative narrative, and it's one that they don't want to wind up losing because it's profitable for this small group of men, because the whole narrative of the gender war is very profitable to this small group of black men, and it is also very profitable to your white supremacists, because as long as you've got the black man and the black woman arguing back and forth, they are not really focused on black empowerment. Now, this small group of black males, they are jockeying to take over Kevin Samuels' position, and that is why they are trying to silence anyone who is trying to present counterpoints or trying to present talking points that go out here and criticize your Kevin Samuels. Because if you go out here and start refuting many of the narratives that Kevin Samuels produced about high value men, this lowers the value of those narratives, and they can't profit off those narratives. So this is all about them protecting not the legacy of Kevin Samuels, like some want to say. This is all about them trying to protect the goose that makes all of the golden eggs, even though the goose has been cooked. So that's what this is all about, protecting the so-called assets as related to gaining for themselves. Because because Kevin Samuels left no heir, that means they can go out here and try to capitalize on Kevin Samuels passing, and they can go out here, gain access to his 1.4 million subscribers, and then gain access to his super chats, his Cash Apps, and access to the ad revenue on the Google AdSense. And all of that is gravy for whoever takes it over. So that's why there's an effort to try to silence anyone who disagrees with their narrative, and an effort to try to make
their narrative, the only narrative regarding Kevin Samuels. That's something Ringo and Kid Organic have talked about, and it's something that I see them again trying to jockey for power, trying to create a covert contract with people, and trying to use force and intimidation, like things like saying that they're going to sue anybody who speaks against Kevin Samuels. However, under the United States Constitution, people are allowed free speech, and I can tell you from somebody who's been a publisher that any state case as related to slander and libel, that's a case that's going to take months and even years to get through the court. So it's not going to be something that can be easily proven, especially when you have news media platforms going on. And the larger news media platforms do have the money to go out here and go through this for months and even years. And they also can go out here and say that we were reporting based on information given to us. And if they can prove sources, this is going to be a hard up-fought battle. So this is all about trying to scare people into not talking about Kevin Samuels, and it's all about them trying to keep having power over the entire Kevin Samuels narrative. Now, there's another component to this whole controlling the narrative, and many of those black males who were out here bootlicking for Kevin Samuels, they also want to keep the narrative of high value man going, because having the narrative of high value man, they believe, gets them access to black women. Now, people oftentimes called into Kevin Samuels shows, and there was a large population of black women calling into these shows. Moreover, there was a large population of black women listening to those shows. And these black male YouTubers who have had some moderate success with their shows and live streams, they want to gain access not only to those black females as callers, but they also want to gain sexual access to those women. And again, this is why they are out here looking to try to protect the whole platform of Kevin Samuels, because they want to gain access to those black women. And the irony here is that while they go out here and deride black women on their platforms, many of these men secretly want to gain sexual access to those women. So that's another reason why they are out here looking to try to protect the Kevin Samuels platform. They want to gain access to those black women. Yes, they may go out here and agree with your Kevin Samuels as related to his talking points, but these men really, again, while they sit there and criticize black women, they actually want to gain sexual access to them, and they want to use the covert contract that they have with Kevin Samuels to gain access to those women. And that's another reason why they want to preserve the narrative of Kevin Samuels, is because they actually want access to those black women, and they also want access to those black female dollars, because they know if the woman is paying attention to them, they'll also get money from the other women. And again, it's all about them using the high value narrative to elevate their social status so that they can get access to the cream of the crop of those black women, even though they sit there and criticize black women. Now, these guys will sit there and criticize, they'll listen to Kevin Samuels criticize black women, but this whole criticism of black women, again, was basically your Kevin Samuels forming a codependent relationship with these black women, because the more you tell a black woman something is wrong with her, the more money she'll spend to fix it. And that's the covert contract that these guys want. They want to be able to get her to spend her money on them, and they also want to be able to gain sexual access to those women as they are telling her something is wrong and helping her fix it. This is, again, no different than the pimp pastor or any hustler out here. And what these guys want to do is keep the hustle going. It is not about trying to improve black men. as many of the high value followers say that they want to do. No, this is all about them getting that money and sexual access from these women, because these men really don't want to improve themselves. No, what they want is a gimmick that they believe will get the attention of your women, and they want to use that gimmick to be able to get the sexual access to the women who have the good jobs and the good money. And basically, they want to put these women, as Ringo has pointed out in his video, on rotation so that they can have a harem of females to go out here and use for sex and gain sexual access, and also be able to have a rotation of women on the live streams, giving them super chat money, cash app money, and donations, and live off the donations and be able to be taken care of by the women. That's what they want, and they want to be the guys on top, and they want to eliminate the competition. So that's why they go out here and use threats and intimidation to keep other black YouTubers from being able to speak their opinions about Kevin Samuels. Now, when it came down to your Tom Likas, you didn't see anybody going after him, and that really shows us how this is about a small group of black males looking to create a fiefdom among themselves and looking to gain control over the narrative of your Kevin Samuels. Now, what's even more disturbing than this small group of black male Kevin Samuels bootlicks are the acolytes out here who followed Kevin Samuels. Now, this group of acolytes has gone out here, and as they deified and worshipped Kevin Samuels like a god, they have gone out here and tried to compare Kevin Samuels to a civil rights icon like Malcolm X. And I take deep abridgment to that, because your Kevin Samuels was nowhere near the level of Malcolm X. No, the Honorable Malcolm X was a great leader, and he was a great leader because of his character and integrity. And your Malcolm X represented the highest value as related to morals and character. And while he did not serve the Most High God, he did represent great character and integrity as related to the way he carried and conducted himself. No, the late Malik El-Shabazz showed great respect to our sisters, and if he had an issue with a sister, he handled it in private, discreetly, and he realized that if he's going to work with women, he worked with women who cooperated with him. He did not go out here and pay attention to those women who were outside of the faith. No, he worked with those who were in the faith, and he worked with them as related to gaining respect, and he also maintained the integrity as related to the way he carried and conducted himself in his marriage with his wife, and he presented an example of manhood to his daughters. So your Kevin Samuels did none of the things that Malik El-Shabazz did while he was alive, and he was nowhere near the level of Malcolm X as a leader. Now, yes, your Kevin Samuels had a following of gullible black men and women, but he did not go out here and want to lead anyone on a path of righteousness. No, your Kevin Samuels was leading people on a road to hell by promoting dysfunctional behaviors, and he never once went out here and told these young brothers that the way they were acting was cultish, and he did not shut down the high value cult. So that showed me he was not about being any sort of leader. And your Kevin Samuels talked about how he was a Christian, but this Christian man went out here and condoned things that were outside the order of the Most High. He talked about fornication and justified fornication. He talked about men going out here and having prostitutes. He told women to try to not to go out here and lie about adultery, and no man who follows the Most High would condone such behaviors. But your Kevin Samuels talked about these behaviors and made it like it was perfectly fine. So when I look at your Kevin Samuels, he was not really leading black men the way Malcolm X was leading black people. No, your Kevin Samuels was looking to go out here and be like the black pastor, and he was looking to exploit the black masses in order to enrich himself at their expense. And as he looked to enrich himself at their expense, he condoned and justified dysfunction in the black community. Yes, he told black men things that made them feel good, and it made a lot of black men feel good to hear him criticize black women, but he was not doing anything, I believe, to go out here and elevate and empower any black man. Now, you have another small group of black men who will sit there and talk about, oh, Kevin Samuels did all of these great things in the black community, and he was looking to go out here and improve the quality of life in the black community. And I have to call bullshit on that, because the only person whose life was being improved was Kevin Samuels' life, not the lives of everyday black Americans across this country. So when anybody comes to me and says things like, oh, Kevin Samuels was out here looking to improve the quality of life in the black community and build the black community, I have to ask them a critical question. How does a so-called image consultant and relationship expert improve the quality of life in the black community? I mean, you've never heard Kevin Samuels endorse a black-owned business like SJS Direct. You've never heard Kevin Samuels go out here and put on another YouTuber as related to any business venture. Yes, he appeared on shows and live streams, and that got some people some views, but has he gone out here and endorsed a black-owned business? And the answer is no. Nor did your Kevin Samuels ever talk about reparations, nor did he ever talk about tangibles. So I don't really see how your Kevin Samuels was out to improve the black community if he did not participate in group economics, if he did not go out here and endorse and support black-owned businesses, and he did not go out here and go and try to elevate other black people. No, that whole argument doesn't wash as I see it, and it doesn't wash because the only person Kevin Samuels was looking to make money for was himself. Yes, he told this small group of black males what they wanted to hear so that their viewers and subscribers would come to his platform and he could reap the profits from adding those viewers to his viewers. Unfortunately, because these men were so enamored and in their feelings about your Kevin Samuels, they couldn't see how they had been caught up in the con they were trying to run on Kevin Samuels, and how the high value man had basically ripped them off. They're still thinking that they were in with Kevin Samuels, but your Kevin Samuels had gotten what he wanted out of them, and they're sitting there thinking that Kevin Samuels is out there to help them up, but he never helped any of these guys up, and they were out here chasing him, not understanding that the whole point of having your own platform is to be your own leader. And again, if this manosphere was so strong, why were they out here not trying to elevate other brothers, but looking to clout chase this one dude? Now, the other point of dysfunction as related to the Kevin Samuels followers is how they created this covert contract with Kevin Samuels, believing that if they elevated him, he would reciprocate and elevate them. And even after Kevin Samuels' passing, they're still trying to hold on to that covert contract between themselves and Kevin Samuels, and they're hoping, wishing, and praying that they'll be able to capitalize on the power void, and hoping that they will fill the power void and be able to take over from your Kevin Samuels. Unfortunately, the whole base of Kevin Samuels was built on sand, and because it was built on sand, there is nothing of substance related to it, because the whole high value man gimmick is nothing more than stuff out of high school, where the guys go out here and put on expensive clothes in order to impress Shaniqua, and all they do is try to make it look like they're a big shot, and as they're making it look like they're a big shot, they are not really understanding their own value as men. The truth is, your so-called high-value man, it has low self-esteem, and this high-value man has low self-esteem because even though he allegedly makes six figures, he's still going to the same spots where he used to go when he was broke. Now, if you're a high-value man and you understand your worth, you're not going to be going out here and going to the same hood spots in an effort to try to elevate your status with people you should have moved past on years ago. That was the fault with the whole high-value man narrative that Kevin Samuels pushed, and it was the thing that led to the whole complete collapse of the whole high-value man narrative. Because a high-value man who had high self-esteem, if he ran into Nicki Minaj, he would have checked her, because he understand his worth as a man, and he understood that if this woman was out here participating in behavior that was unbecoming a woman, he was going to check her on that behavior, because it wouldn't be about the so-called clout he would get from agreeing with her. No, it would be about his integrity as a man. Because I guarantee you, the late Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm X, if he were to confront your Nicki Minaj, the same woman who called him a looking N-word, he would have definitely checked your Nicki Minaj, and he wouldn't have given a crap about who got upset about it, because he understood, as a servant of his God, this woman is not respecting the image of womanhood and not presenting to the standards of womanhood. And the same thing with a follower of the Most High like myself. If I were in the presence of a Nicki Minaj, I would be calling her out about her ratchet and disrespectful behavior and the negative example she presents to the sisters as related to her flaunting this sexuality and promoting sexual promiscuity. But your Kevin Samuels, in the face of a Nicki Minaj, looked to compromise, and that compromise showed us all how he had no integrity. And many of his followers, they tried to make excuses for your Kevin Samuels, but when he made that compromise on Nicki Minaj, it was the beginning of the end of your Kevin Samuels, and this was the thing that shattered the narrative of the high-value man. But the acolytes and the followers of the cult, they need this narrative to go on, because this narrative is a lucrative one, and it's lucrative because it was something that it gives these men a gimmick that they can use to gain sexual access to women, and it also gives them a narrative that they can have to follow, because many of these males don't want to be leaders of themselves, because if something fails, they don't want to be responsible for, their behavior. And that's the other reason why they hide behind the high-value security blanket. They need the high-value security blanket because they're scared to go out on their own as men, and they're scared to go out and stand up as men. Many of these guys in this cult, they need the numbers to go out here and attack a man or a woman. So that's why they are out here participating in this dysfunctional behavior. And this dysfunctional behavior, sadly, makes all of Black America look bad, because you have black males participating in behavior that shows all of the dysfunction David Carroll talked about in many of his videos right here on display with the behaviors of these black males and black men who are looking to go out here, and they're not looking to preserve the legacy of your Kevin Samuels out of honor. No, they're looking to preserve the legacy of Kevin Samuels because they can go out here and make money off the narrative by taking the subs and the views, and they're looking to go out here and gain that sexual access to that large population of women. So we have a lot of dishonest and disingenuous individuals who are out here not talking about protecting the legacy of Kevin Samuels, but they show us all how they are not about showing high value in the black community. No, it's a group of opportunists looking to go out here and make money for themselves at the expense of your Kevin Samuels legacy. Their whole thing is they want to build their legacy on Kevin Samuels, and they were out here trying to control the narrative, and they're looking to control the narrative because, again, they want the money and the power, because the gender war is big business on social media. And that's basically what your Kevin Samuels was doing. He was providing a nice distraction for the mainstream media, as long as people were out here fighting this gender war as related to this high value man. They weren't focused on empowering themselves. Now, many of the high value acolytes, they'll sit there and say, I'm improving myself, and Kevin Samuels was talking about improving yourself, and I have to call BS on that again, because if you were serious about improving yourself, you would not need a high value label to go out here and find your value as a man. Now, a man who understands his value, understands he has value to the Most High, and he's looking to do the work of a steward as the Most High, and he's looking to take responsibility as a steward, because as Jesus stated in his parable when he told them to occupy until he came, he gave men, each of them, talents, and the one man who had the 5 talents and one man had 3 talents, they brought back more talents. But when I look at what your Kevin Samuels was doing, it was the same as putting that talent in the ground. And when he put that talent in the ground, it did nothing, because what your Kevin Samuels was doing nothing more than just regurgitating the same gender war talking points. And we weren't really going anywhere, and we weren't really profiting at all, because going back and forth with women who were set in their ways, or so-called checking black women, yes, this made that small group of black men feel good, but that did not grow the black community in any way, shape, or form. So everybody's sitting there thinking, oh, that this whole Kevin Samuels thing was helping the black community, but all I see right now is a lot of dysfunction on display, people trying to make threats and intimidate people into silence, people going out here acting crazy and emotional, and all I see is a return to a lot of the extremely dysfunctional behavior I saw in the black sector of YouTube before David Carroll came to YouTube. And I see a lot of these black men, especially educated professional brothers, going out here acting all crazy like this, and it really is embarrassing to watch some of our so-called high value, best and brightest black men presenting an embarrassing display on social media, because all you're doing is showing the world that whenever there's a crisis going on among black men, that many black men are, like they said in Beloved, it's like the Danny Glover character, putting your face in the buttermilk instead of standing up and just presenting yourself as a man. Now, when I saw the passing of David Carroll, I was really proud to see black men carrying and conducting themselves as men, because that is how a man goes out here and grieves the passing of a man, by showing honor and respect to him. But the way I see many of these black males are out here with Kevin Samuels, they really show us that they don't really understand the concept of respecting a man. And we also see that this is the legacy of dysfunction left by your Kevin Samuels. It's like Mad Black Eddie was saying about legacy on Facebook. You have to think about what legacy you are leaving. And when I look at the behaviors of these black males out here as related to Kevin Samuels, they are really presenting that Kevin Samuels' legacy was one of dysfunction, one of chaos, and I'm not seeing your black males presenting themselves as good, responsible men. I see just dysfunction on display, and this is an embarrassment to just see going on here, because again, the way people are behaving is a negative reflection on the black male image, and it's a great irony as related to the so-called image consultant who was basically building a cult, and now that cult's image is falling apart because we see the dysfunction on display from many of these black males who say they have high value, but in the truth they have low self-esteem, and that low self-esteem and low self-worth is really the thing that's fueling all of this dysfunction. And as they jockey to try to become the top as related to the net being the person who takes over for Kevin Samuels, they show us how little they value themselves, because if they valued their image, they wouldn't be acting in these extremely dysfunctional, crazy, and really psychotic ways. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.